Thank you. At this time, we will address several issues involving the water and sewer billing in our city. As was publicly stated on multiple occasions, including letters to all our residents and businesses, articles in the Mirror newspaper, and videos on the city website, there was a problem with the transmission of data from the meters to our city utility billing division. This was realized as a result of batteries failing to function. The batteries became defective years before their full operational life expectancy should have been realized. Thousands of batteries failed. There is no evidence that any of our meters have failed. In the complaints we have realized to date, not one tested meter has found to be defective. In some cases, the failed batteries power the telemetry unit. When the telemetry unit does not have power, it cannot transmit usage to our billing division. However, the meter continues to record actual usage and all meter readings are accurate. At this time, before I go on further, I'll ask our Finance Director, Jennifer Harkey, to explain how the meters work and answer some questions that we've received.
Sure, thanks, Mayor. So this is a meter head with a node. I can stand up. So here's the mechanics of how consumption is recorded. So this actually moves when water flows through it, and that's the only way it moves. And then from there, it's actually recorded on the meter head. So consumption is never, accurately recording consumption has never been the problem. It's the electronic transmission of the read to our utility, or to our meter reading system, and then ultimately to our utility billing system. So this is the node. This is what we keep talking about, right? And this is the battery that's died prematurely, a half-life, that has to be replaced. And then this here is a radio. So the radio is where it's electronically transmitted, again, into our utility billing system, meter reading system and utility billing system ultimately. But the consumption has never been in question. Accurately recording consumption has never been a problem. It's when it's electronically transmitted for billing purposes. That's where the failure has taken place. Dustin is our assistant water superintendent, and he's going to explain how the meters are tested at the factory as well as tested upon resident request.
So there's a AWWA standard, which is American Water Works Association. And every single meter, doesn't matter what brand, make, model, has to go through a test before it leaves the factory. And they all have to pass a certain standard, which the standard is 3%, rather it be read high or read low, or slow, read fast, read slow. Before it leaves factory, if it does not, it has to obviously get scrapped and made a new one of it. So every single one we have, every single one we receive for residential purposes, what Jennifer showed you, that brass body that has called a nutating disc inside of that, and water has to pass through that disc in order to turn that head. It's all magnetically driven. After that nutating disc is spun, it moves that head. So those have to get tested on the bench test at factory. Then, if anybody, we've had a couple people, concerned that their meter was not testing properly or working properly. So we do offer a service here in the city that we will come out, we'll send an operator out there, pick your meter up from your house. We'll put it in your personal vehicle. You can drive to our tower where we have a AWWA standard test bench at our tower on Dussel Drive. Then you'll bring that into our tower. We will put it on that bench, and we will test in multiple series. Those are meant to pass before they leave AWWA standard. There's a low test, a mid-flow test, and a high-flow test. So we'll do the same exact series at our tower as what it would from a factory. And if that meter does pass the standard, there is a fee acquired to that, then we will put that meter right back into the house. And in my 19 years of doing this, I've tested thousands, and I've yet to ever see one speed up. 9 times out of 10 they slow down over time because moving parts wear out. So it's actually citizens' favor. As time goes on, those dues slowly wear out and slow down. So then obviously if it gets below that 3% threshold, we will be putting a new meter in because you're actually getting a cheaper rate, or I should say less gallons than as you should be. So that's how we do all our testing up there.
Thanks, Dustin. So along those points then, so you've been in the business for 19 years and you've never had a meter fail. So we strongly encourage residents to perform their own test by reading their meter and then running a gallon of water and then looking again at the meter head to ensure that 1 gallon recorded.
Absolutely. So what we've used for our meter, they're all mechanical now. We did put some digital ones in for a little while. They obviously with all the shortage and chip issues, we couldn't get those anymore. So we went back to the older school, never fail proof, good ones. So if you find your meter in your house, they're all blue. The tops of them are blue at head. So you can flip that lid open. There's a lid on all of them. On obviously the mechanical ones, they look like an old school odometer on your vehicle, and that's about how they work exactly. If your vehicle ain't moving, miles aren't clipping off. Same thing with that water meter. If water ain't passing through, it's not clipping any gallons off. So you can go there, flip that lid open, and you can see on there, all our meters read down to the gallon with the heads that we use now are called NE8s. They read down to a gallon. So you can go in there and see whatever gallon you're at, go ahead and flow a gallon of water into a milk jug, water jug, anything, then go back, read that meter, and it will show to you that you used a gallon of water. Now the SSR heads, they do read down to the hundredths of a gallon. So there is a decimal point in there, so don't get confused with that. We've had some people call and say, oh, I went through 2 gallons of water in 2 minutes. Well, it's actually 200ths of a gallon. And obviously you have a leaky toilet or something you might want to check into. So obviously anything above the decibel is a gallon, so don't get confused with the tenths and hundredths of the SSR heads, and you'll know right away the difference between those heads. You'll flip it open. One, like I said, one's all digital numbers, one's all mechanical numbers.
And I have those up here if anyone wants to take a look. Yeah. Thanks, Dustin. So we've got a lot of questions about what happens when the meter reading is not transmitted. So if we are unable to obtain an electronic read, then we estimate that bill or that read based on the previous year, the same quarter. So the meter, again, it continues to accurately record consumption. It's just not electronically transmitting the read, so then we can capture that for billing. What happens when the batteries are replaced? So when the batteries are replaced, then we get an actual read versus an estimated read. So sometimes if it's underestimated, then the resident will receive a large, what we call a catch-up bill. So it's an underestimated, they haven't paid as much as they had been consuming before. So that's, I think, where a lot of our issues are and why a lot of you may be here tonight. So we do as many catch-up bills and as many bills that were underestimated. We have more that were overestimated. So those people have a large credit balance. So they were overestimated, and then when we get the actual read, it's much lower than we estimated. So we have quite a few people with very large credit balances sitting on their accounts. So what can a customer do if they have a catch-up bill? So we encourage them to call or email the utility billing office. The supervisor is here in front of me, and he's doing a wonderful job, and he's very responsive. So he does offer options for catch-up bills. Can't the city just forgive the bills when there's a hardship? No, we can't, unfortunately. Water was consumed, so the resident is responsible to pay for that consumption. We, in addition to potential payment plan, we do direct the resident to a list of resources we have available to them, pathways, local churches, and a few other agencies that I believe it's available on our website too, or John emails those out too. So where does the revenue go that's collected for water and sewer? So all the user fees that are collected for water and sewer stay in the water and sewer fund. It would be illegal for me to use those funds for anything else, for roadways or for police cruisers. It has to stay for water and sewer operating that capital. I think that answers all the questions I have.
Thank you. During a period of high-level COVID cases, many precautions were recommended and others were mandated. It was during this period of time in which the batteries utilized failed, and like many other products throughout our country at that time, there became a shortage, and we were not able to get replacement batteries. Further, state and federal recommendations were in place, which included not having family holiday dinners, isolation of our senior citizens, and school closures. It would not have been safe for either our residents or our employees to go into homes to replace the batteries during that time. So this resulted in the city having to, over a period of time, estimate bills which would be longer than would have been the case if it had not been for the international pandemic. These estimates were calculated by the Electronic Reading Transmission Computer Program. As batteries became available and it was safe to install them, sewer bills for actual use were sent to our residents and businesses. As Jennifer stated, some of these were catch-up bills based upon underestimated bills. It was at that time that council unanimously approved providing for a payment plan which gave an extended period of time for the residents to catch up the bills without any penalties or interest. The city of Maumee, again, as Jennifer said, does not have legal authority to waive the payment of water and sewer bills. Like every municipality in our state, the city of Maumee is audited every year, and waiver of payments would be fully disclosed, which could result in criminal penalties or our employees having to pay civil penalties to make up for the waivers they gave. The city of Maumee has 6,355 water sewer accounts. 6,355. Today, only 41 accounts are on the catch-up payment plan. That is just slightly over 0.5% of all our accounts. Put it another way, 99.3% of all our accounts are not on any catch-up payment plan. The catch-up bills have not been exorbitant, as the word has been used. If you look at Merriam-Webster dictionary, exorbitant means that it is not coming within the scope of the law. Stating that bills were exorbitant is inflammatory, as it insinuates the bills were not determined in accordance with the laws of the state of Ohio, which requires we cannot charge more for water and sewer than what it costs us to provide the water and sewer services for our residents. The catch-up bills for some of our residents, based on their actual usage, were an amount greater than anticipated. That again is why the catch-up plan was approved by council. It's very important to understand again, only about 0.5% of all our accounts are on such a plan. While we strive to assist residents who were impacted by the catch-up bills, that did not mean that those residents could go several months without making any payment, which in some cases occurred. There were a few of our residents that failed to make any payments for several months. There have been residents who have stated that their meter readings were inaccurate without any testing ever been done. As was stated earlier, you can get your meter tested. If you feel your meter is not correct, then have it tested. And the city employees will do that, and again, it's in 19 years, they haven't found one yet that did not test properly. There have been residents who have stated they had no leak in the system and the meter readings were inaccurate. The meters do determine actual usage, and when the telemeter is functioning, we can show how much water is used every hour in every residence. A review of the resident's usage will show what is being used and when. An example, one resident on their bill, when he went through it, between 8 a.m. and, midnight and 8 a.m., we looked at a period of 1 week. Every hour, they used up between 148 and 153 gallons of water. That was over 1,200 gallons between midnight and 8 o'clock in the morning. Not many people use water at that time of day. That was only on 1 week that we looked at. Between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m., that same resident never used more than 2 gallons of water. What most likely has occurred, according to our employees, is it was a running toilet that was neglected overnight and fixed in the morning, because the meter continued to read accurately the rest of the day. The city of Maumee has to pay for every gallon of water we purchase from the city of Toledo. And the city of Maumee has to pay for every gallon of sewage we send to the Lucas County Sewer District to be treated. We are required to bill our residents and our businesses for water and sewer usage. One resident has stated the meter readings were not correct, and in fact subsequently found that she did have a leak in her residence in a basement, or excuse me, an area of her home which was seldom used. The resident asked that a portion of the sewer bill be waived because that water did not need treated because it wasn't contaminated. The water from your sewer goes into the sewer line. There's no way that the county sewer district can tell whether it's your water or anybody else's water and which part was contaminated and which part wasn't. We get billed for every gallon. The meters maintain actual accounts of water used throughout the period batteries were not operational. And again, the city of Maumee is still obligated to pay for every gallon. Next, I want to address the minimum quarterly bills, which have raised a lot of concern. Maumee is not unique in having minimum quarterly bills. For one, I looked, the city of Perrysburg has a minimum quarterly. Their quarterly amount is more than Maumee's. Not by much, but maybe 1,000 gallons, somewhere in that area as I recall. The minimum billing amount is not a new policy in the city of Maumee. Today, our minimum charge is based on 6,000 gallons per quarter. This policy in our city goes back to as far as 1964. From 1982 through January 1st of 2020, there was a minimum billing policy for both water and sewer, which began at 8,000 gallons of water a quarter, which is more than what we have now. In January of 20, we suspended it, and subsequently we put it back in place because the charges we have to pay for water from the city of Toledo and to pay the Lucas County Sewer District to treat the sewer was increased. Some have asked why there's a minimum billing policy. I think it's important to understand that each of us pays for water to be transmitted from the city of Toledo into the city of Maumee and then eventually into our homes. The city must maintain operation of all the pipes that get it from the city of Toledo to our homes. If there is a break in any of the sewer systems, our employees go out and fix it, regardless of the time of day. The Maumee water and sewer system is comprised of over 200 miles of pipes. To visualize this, the pipes would extend from Maumee to Lexington, Kentucky. We have to maintain those and in times replace them and sometimes repair them. Some of the pipes that we have in our system now go back to 1908. The system needs to continuously be maintained, improved, in some instances replaced, so that the water gets to our residents. Regardless of how much water you use, if there's a breakdown, our employees come out to fix it. Probably the best analogy I could give is a 911 system. I paid taxes for over 40 years for 911. I've never once placed a call to 911. But if I needed to, I can. You probably have never had a water break, but if you do, the city will come out and fix it. The city of Maumee's cost to provide water and sewer for our residents and businesses is $16 million a year. To replace 1 mile of pipe costs, in today's dollars, about $3 million. That means if we were to replace 1 mile of pipe per year at today's rate of $3 million, it would take us 200 years to replace all the pipes in our city. So we have to continuously maintain them, repair them, and try to replace them as we can. It costs money. One of our residents recently shared this. While most of us were sleeping, a Maumee Water Department team was called in the middle of the night to tend to a broken water line. I wish I could have taken a picture at 2 a.m. when the driveway was torn up, a huge hole dug out, and water was being pumped out of the hole to repair the line. The resident then shared a picture showing a driveway that looked like nothing had ever happened and said, "This is what I woke up to while those workers were out there all night." This is the service that Maumee provides our residents. We take a look at what the average amount of consumption is. In determining the minimum rate, again, we went down from 8,000 gallons to 6,000 gallons, but we have to have enough to continue to maintain our system, which again, the cost is $16 million per year. That includes purchasing water, having it treated by the county, and our employees who work on the system. Some residents have pointed out that they pay property taxes. It's important to understand, because we hear a lot, why pay property taxes? If you live in the city of Maumee and you do not work in the city of Maumee, and you work in a city where they have income tax, you do not pay the city of Maumee any income tax whatsoever. We don't get a penny. Your property tax bill, the city of Maumee gets somewhere between 3% and 5% of all your total payments over the year. That's all we get. That's why we have to have the minimum water and sewer bill, and we try to keep it as low as what we possibly can. Because regardless, again, whether you pay the minimum or you pay more, if there's a breakdown, not just in your driveway, but somewhere that stops it from getting to your home, our employees come out to fix it. The next issue is increased water rates. This is not unique to the city of Maumee. Almost every single city, if not everyone, in this area, just in the last 5 years, have increased their rates. I know the city of Perrysburg went through a period of time where they had 5 consecutive years of rate increases, and I believe they're having another one now. The rates that were placed on the city of Maumee are based on what it costs us to provide for our system. The city of Maumee had a water contract with the city of Toledo. It would have expired in the year 2026. If we had not addressed this in advance of the expiration of that contract, we would have been subjected to whatever charge the city of Toledo wanted to charge us. That is why when Maumee residents were paying $26 a gallon for Toledo water, Sylvania was paying $40 to $41 a gallon for Toledo water. In negotiating the regional contract, I spent many hours over a 2-year period, along with the mayors of Perrysburg, Sylvania, and other communities, negotiating with the city of Toledo to end the city of Toledo having a monopoly on setting water rates. We were able to successfully reach an agreement. Now, water rates that Toledo charges are determined by the communities who participate, each having a representative. Had we not done anything, easily, Maumee's rates would have tripled in 2026, and we couldn't have done anything about it, and they could have charged us whatever they wanted. The cost for water for Maumee will continue to go up each year from the city of Toledo, because what is happening is the city of Maumee is going to go up every year until every community is paying the exact same rate, and then going forward, every community will pay the same rate. A very critical point that we negotiated was that for the residents of the city of Maumee, they didn't immediately significantly raise our rates so that even it out with Sylvania and the other communities that pay way more. We reached an agreement that it would be done gradually between 2018 and 2026. During the process, we did advocate for possibility of an alternative water source, which was an aquifer. The negotiating team agreed at Maumee's insistence that we study the aquifer. Because of the amount of lines and the cost that would have to be installed unless several communities participated, it did not economically work, and it was not good for our region as a whole. So it proved not to be feasible, but it did enable us to reach an agreement to end Toledo's monopoly on water prices, and that argument had been going on for over 40 years without ever successfully being negotiated. Again, in looking at our water rates in Maumee, We compared them to the city of Perrysburg, we're about exactly the same. Compared them with the city of Waterville, about exactly the same. Slightly more in Waterville, but insignificant difference. Our water rates are not exorbitant. Did any of us want to pay more for water? Absolutely not. Every person up here and every one of you has to pay for water. Not one council member wants to pay for more for water than any of us or you do. But this fact may surprise some of you. The cost is for water and sewer, being the fresh water delivered into your home and the sewage being exited from your home, is 2 cents a gallon. 2 cents a gallon. Compare that to a bottle of water or a cup of coffee. It's surprising that in our area, compared to other parts of the United States, the cost is not that great. So 2 cents a gallon, I don't believe is exorbitant. I'll next comment on some of the EPA issues which we've been addressing. Sometime in the 1970s, I negotiated an agreement with the Ohio EPA. That was approximately, and then they stopped complying and reported to the EPA that everything had been corrected. That was approximately 17 years before I became mayor, and between 20 and 27 years before any of these members of council first started serving on city council. None of us were aware of the agreement or the fact that it was reported to have been successfully completed when in fact it was not completed. When we employed our new city administrator, it didn't take him long at all. He saw that we were pumping into the river. He came to me and he said, Maumee is pumping into the river and they're also not reporting it to the EPA. Both of those are violations. I instructed him and our law director they were to immediately report to the EPA, which they did. To correct the problems, we hired a number of employees who brought to the job substantial knowledge and experience to accomplish as promptly as possible the objective of pumping into the Maumee River. It was not something that we could just immediately stop doing, because if we did, it put everybody who had a basement in Maumee in jeopardy of having sewage back up into their basements. These employees have proven to have performed their duties in an exemplary manner, higher than our highest expectations. And I can tell you that we are extremely lucky that we brought these employees and their experience on. Their efforts have made it clear that the worst case scenario we had of repairing our system will not become remotely close to being realized. There was recently a report that Maumee's on the line for $100 million in repairs. That is not accurate. It will not even be close to that cost. We have worked to obtain government funding and continue to seek all grants. Recently, a citizen stated that our residents were paying for the $1 million fine leveled by the EPA. The reporter, despite his own station having a year prior reported that the fine was $29,000, did not correct the misstatement and instead said, it's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it? It's aggravating to us when misinformation is put out and not corrected. The fine was $29,000. The equipment that the EPA has provided us to do testing far exceeded that $29,000. Next, I want to address the Lucas County Recreation Center property and the City of Toledo matter. The Ohio EPA and the City of Maumee combined to purchase 32 flow meters, which provide state-of-the-art technology to determine accurate amounts of rainwater improperly discharged into our sanitary sewer system. We are working with each of those property owners to correct the problem where rainwater was getting into our sanitary system. Almost all of them immediately began making corrections. In 2021, the City of Maumee notified the Lucas County Commissioners of a serious problem with the 73-acre area, which is the Lucas County Recreation Center property, discharging rainwater into our sanitary sewer system. It is imperative to understand when they discharged that rainwater into our sewer system improperly, that then went into the Lucas County Sewer District, and the City of Maumee was paying to have that water treated. When your sewer goes into the system, you're paying your sewer bill. Now, the Lucas County Commissioners did not know that this was going into the system. since we notified them in 2021, it still continues to occur. We had sent out bills for the last quarter of 2021 and the first 3 quarters of 2022. And we will continue to bill until the problem is corrected. Because when they put more into our system and not paying for it, and we're having to pay to have it treated, it also overburdens our system, which may impact our residents. It was reported that we are negotiating a price. We are not negotiating the cost of what those meters show. Those meters are accurate, they are state-of-the-art, and they're better than any meters currently used by the county in this area because they're brand new technology and they were recommended by the Ohio EPA. What we are negotiating is the fact that they had discharged into our system for a long period of time without paying. We will continue to bill every quarter until it's corrected. It will probably take the county an extended period of time to correct their problem. And it's going to be extremely expensive for them to do it, is what we anticipate from our employees who have been out there. At the same time, the city of Toledo was improperly also discharging into our sanitary sewer system. They too were notified in 2021. They also are continuing to improperly discharge rainwater into our sanitary sewer system. They have received their bills, since we got the meters in place for them, during 2022. We will continue to bill them as well. The combined bills based on accurate meter readings to Lucas County and the city of Toledo are over $1 million. That money goes into our sewer fund and will be used for us to continue to maintain our sewer lines, make improvements, and address the EPA issues. Our rates that were in place are not solely or even majority caused by the Ohio EPA issue as it has been implied or in some cases stated. Increases in the cost for water from the city of Toledo, increased costs from Lucas County Sewer District, and the cost for improving and maintaining miles of pipe, over 200 miles of pipe, have all contributed to the increased rate. The issues I have discussed are very complex, they're real, and they have taken a lot of time to deal with over the past couple of years. It is my responsibility and the responsibility of every one of these council members that we address it and be advocates for our residents. We have done that. Being an advocate, though, we have to make decisions that are based on facts and based on the laws we have to comply with. Again, we are not allowed by law to forgive a bill, and we can't do that and won't do that. Most of the bills that are from the backup or catch-up payments are a result of leaks the resident had. If we were legally allowed to waive a portion of their bill or give it a break, we still have to pay the city of Toledo for water, we still have to pay Lucas County for sewage treatment, and we still have to pay our employees to maintain it. So what happens? Your meter was running during that period of time, your water had a leakage in it. If we give a break, it has to be spread out among all the rest of our residents. And it's already a burden on those who are concerned about the minimum water billing without adding more to it. This would not be acceptable. Right now, as I said, we have less than 0.5% on the payment plan. The average balance is $750. We believe we've been through the worst of this and that we will continue. Again, if residents feel their meter's not working, contact us and we will get it corrected. It's been a very difficult process and it's very difficult to get the message out. We've tried letters, we've tried television, we've tried newspapers. It's very difficult to get it out, but hopefully this is being recorded this evening. We'll put it on our city website, and we will continue to address these problems.